broke our coppers at the legislature building and the parliament building here in Canada. We broke a spell of false dominance and control. The true custodians of Mother Earth.
So here we have another new bike. And of course the big question is, why did I get a new bike? And the straightforward answer is pretty easy when you consider that this bike is on sale for $2,500. You can kind of naturally come to the conclusion that it's the best value on the market, so why wouldn't you buy this bike? But of course I already had a bike, so if I had a perfectly good bike, why did I buy a new one? I don't want to go into too many of the issues with the Kona, but one of the bigger ones was that it's a bit big for my style of riding. And that's something that I've been noticing as I've been trying bikes and doing demos, is that if it's a modern bike, size large just doesn't work for me. You know, like 475 and up, reach wise, especially if it has like a lower stack, it doesn't work well for me. And that's why I was running 80 millimeter high side riser bars on the Kona, which, you know, it made the bike a lot more rideable and kind of fun, and maybe exacerbated some issues in other parts of the riding. But I don't know, it's just annoying to know that I'm on a bike that's not sized right for me, and then everybody talks about your bars all day, and it's stupid and annoying to deal with. You know, I've been demoing bikes, and you know, at first I ended up demoing some mediums just in terms of like availability, like larges weren't available. But I just noticed that every time I was on a large, I kind of felt like I didn't like that bike. And then every time I was on a medium, almost whatever bike it was, including the new e-bike from YT, it felt great and peppy, and I didn't mind, even if it was kind of short and the stack was kind of low. I didn't mind it because it was so compact anyways. You know, if it's a real low stack and a long reach and you're reaching for it, then that low stack really does suck, and then you do feel like you need to buy riser bars. So I demoed quite a few bikes, especially with YT. I did the Capra initially and didn't necessarily like it, or thought it was too much bike for me and my style of riding, like what I wanted to do. It's real slack and everything, so not a bad bike, but not the bike for me. And I tried the Izzo and kind of had a blast on it, but didn't want to only own one bike, being the Izzo. Don't peck my shoes, bro. Get real. Chill out, Jojo. So did like the Izzo, and then, you know, I didn't demo the Jeff CN29er because I didn't feel like I needed to, but I did want to demo this bike, but the Jeff C in the Mullet limited edition, but they don't demo that model. You know, funnily enough, I have a funny clip of me while I was demoing the e-bike. I'm not buying an e-bike, but my girlfriend did, so she was demoing an e-bike to buy. While I was demoing that new SN model, which was really fun, I was literally mid jump line at Dog Park on Hammer Time, and I saw somebody ride past the fire road with this bike, and I have footage, I'll probably play it, of me getting off Hammer Time, putting it in boost, and riding back up that fire road to meet him at the top of the trailhead. That guy has the bike I want, and I need to catch up with him. Okay, how are we gonna catch up to this guy? We're gonna sprint, boost. And he had a size large, and he was nice enough to let me sit on it. You know, I'm not gonna like demo it or whatever, but I just sat on it, and I felt like, okay, it's a touch too long. It basically reminds me of my Kona. It would probably feel a little bit better because of that 29er stack, brings the stack up a bit more. So that same reach length. I'm not dipping down as far and reaching and having all that hand pressure basically. And that's another thing is, I mean I am, you know, like 6 foot with shoes on. It's not that I don't fit a large, but I have various injuries that keep me from having the strength to lean over like that and be so heavy on my hands and reaching out. I mean, there's a rod in my elbow and I've lost range, so in terms of my actual arm wingspan, it's probably over an inch shorter on one side. And that's another thing, is the balance is real wonky. So it's so much easier when I have a small bike that's just shorter, but at the same time I still need a higher stack. And then the Kona's had other issues that are kind of whatever. I mean, it's not like they're the most refined bikes in the industry, to say the least. And we got ones that were from sort of that post-COVID delivery when Kona was under some random owners and whatever. And it, you know, both me and my girlfriend had issues when we did that BOGO sale. The press fit bottom bracket on those sucks. You know, and I'm going to talk about that because YT still uses press fit on all their carbon models, but you know, they switched to threaded on the new alloys. So the new alloy Jeff Season Capras has threaded now. YT's been a company, you know, we're kind of biased and lucky in SoCal, but they've been a company that I've been interested in for a while. You know, especially their older models that are dual 27. But now that's not the case for YT. It's not the case for almost all these brands. So, and that's something that I was thinking about when thinking about buying a new bike, because there's still some dual 27 on the market, mostly the Marin Rift Zone, and to a certain extent, like I was thinking about getting a Polygon T7 again and just ripping off parts, kind of like what I'm doing to the hardtail right now. But I didn't want to do that if I didn't have to. Plus I did want I'm not like against modern bikes necessarily, but I wanted something that was balanced and can do everything, and this bike kind of came up in those regards. And it's kind of funny like how that ended up happening was, again, I was demoing a bunch of bikes. I demoed the Status 140 thinking that could really be a bike for me. And I don't know, I mean, I'm sure I could own one and make a few changes that would make it a bit more in touch for me, but it felt like really weird and imbalanced. Obviously it was really slack for a really short travel bike, and even though it had that, you know, fun chainstay or whatever, I think the bike was imbalanced. You know, if you're gonna buy a Status, the 170 makes a lot of sense, and then if you wanted a cheaper version of that, the YT Capra is pretty similar anyways, so you could get that for even less money. But the Status 140 felt really imbalanced with how slack it was and how little travel, how it went through the travel. Obviously I could see adjusting air pressure and bars, and maybe even bar riser height a little bit, but I don't want to do anything like that. But what happened was I ended up demoing the new Stumpy in mixed wheel config, but you know that their stock builds on the mixed wheel is 145, 160, and that was, you know, a carbon Öhlins model that is a price that I'll never touch in my life. So it was unfortunate that I jumped on that thing and like I got on with it like the way I kind of usually get on with shorter wheelbase dual 27 bikes, and that's not really what that bike is. I mean, that bike is like 64.5 normally, and then with the little upfork mixed wheel version, I think it's just a 64 bike head tube. So, but once again, it was in medium, so even though it was like 64 and that would be the same number as the Status 140, but everything about that bike was really good. And that's also why I couldn't you know, in my mind, it didn't make me think, oh, I'll get the base Stumpy with the X Fusion shock, flip it into do the new linkage to mixed wheel, maybe not upfork it or whatever, and it'll feel just like that Carbon Öhlins. It's probably not going to feel like that Carbon Öhlins necessarily. And of course, even if I did do that, that's $3K for the bike, and then all the extra stuff I have to change the shock at the very least, and buy the linkage and wheel on my own. I don't know where that's going to get me, you know, at least 500 more, maybe even more. So, you know, I was looking at the numbers, and I kind of kept coming on to this bike as I looked up numbers that kind of matched that Stumpy. And you know, this bike caught my attention when it was released, but I wasn't really thinking I was going to buy a mullet then, so it wasn't really high up on my list. No mullets were. I was still trying to get a dual 27. And you know, because this bike isn't a medium and it feels real good to me stock out of the box, I'm not trying to change a bunch of stuff. I'm not trying to mess with the bike again, but one thing I like about this bike's design and how tall the bottom bracket is if I did want to mess with the bike, it would certainly be capable of doing it. You can see the little tape on the wall. I was doing a little stack and reach test with different configs. Obviously they're not exact, but I ran the numbers through the Mad Scientist geometry calculator anyways to do this beforehand. So the red and blue are sort of where the bar height was for the stock config. The green and yellow are when you put a 27-inch front wheel on this bike with the same fork. So that's gonna drop the stack obviously, and also increase the effective reach a bit. And I'll put the numbers that I calculated on the little online calculator to show the exact settings, because the tape is not exact obviously. And then those black tapes, which are kind of a little off because of overlap, but the black tape was putting my 80mm high sides onto the Jeffsy while it had a 27-inch front wheel, because it would do exactly what you'd kind of want to bring the stack back up and the reach back in. And you know, it didn't get bang on to the stock configuration, but it got close enough to where my little pieces of electrical tape are overlapping anyways. So again, not trying to do anything weird with this bike, hopefully. And it does suck that if I do get a different front wheel for it, it's not going to be the awesome Crank Bros Synthesis silver one that's matching the bike. And if I throw the Deity high sides on while that front wheel is on, then I lose my silver Renthals. But that's not a config I'm gonna use like a lot. It's clearly gonna be if I'm only jumping or jibbing around or fucking around and there's no rocks or tech or anywhere, then I might do that. In terms of stuff that I would change, you know, outside of that config thing I'm talking about, which is just a different config, I'm not going to change the stock bike and get rid of stuff. I doubt there's much I'm going to change. I'm not a big SRAM guy, but the GX is pretty good and I'm fine with that. And these G2 Ultimates, you know, I can't ride the bike right now yet. It just rained and I was digging today, but they feel pretty good given that they're the Ultimates and it's already 200 front and rear, so we'll probably be set from the get-go. I will say a weird thing I noticed was that bomber shock with the piggyback. I swear I've demoed that on the status, and when I flipped the sweep into firm, you know, it's not like a full lockout, but it was real firm and worked a lot better than the one on my bike. And I'm not sure if I'm just misremembering or if there's an issue with the sweep or the compression on mine. When I went to YT to pick up the bike and they set it up for me, you know, built it up tubeless and everything, he set it up for my weight, but he either set it up wrong or even worst case scenario, he he set it up right and it's leaking air, which I kind of doubt, but yeah, I don't know why the number was so far off, but yeah, we had to up that pressure because initially that was concerning me and I thought there was an issue with the shock. But yeah, I just checked the pressure and I was like, damn, this is like at least 40 psi off. Like, we need to get above 200 here. So yeah, dialed my psi, actually took a little air out of the fork and put air into the shock, and now it feels good, but I still didn't get the as firm a compression. And I don't really care if that's the case. I'm just wanting to make sure that, you know, there isn't an issue with the shock out the box. And I didn't have pedals ready to go when I picked it up. I didn't know which ones I was gonna get for a variety of reasons. I kind of wanted something to like match the bike a bit, but I felt like going red or blue wasn't gonna work well. So I was looking for like silver or gray, and ended up going with the P&Ws, which I just want to try them. I'd like to see if they're really good pedals, but I don't really like the tapered shape, but maybe it's not a big deal. I was having struggles finding like the stuff I wanted. I wanted to get some like Deity death traps in gray, but I didn't see any. Don't peck my tire, Jojo. Ah. I said don't peck my tire. Chill out, Jojo. So yeah, it just rained here in SoCal, and I did a little scouting and digging today. And then once the pedals come in, we'll throw the pedals on the bike and actually get those first runs in. I haven't, you know, I just rode it up and down the block dealing with that shock issue, trying to get that sorted out. I highly doubt I'm gonna need to do like a part 2 to this bike check about like how it rides, or, you know, durability wise. That's the only thing that, you know, if something goes wrong with the bike, I'll talk about something going wrong with it. But this is a bike that it's the highest quality bike I've ever owned so far, and I absolutely don't expect anything to go wrong with it. If I find somebody with the bomber shock, I'll probably test their compression and see if it works better than mine. But I have a, you know, sneaky suspicion I'm gonna try it and it's just gonna feel exactly like mine, and I was just overreacting, especially because that was while it was under pressurized anyways from YT. Yeah, this has got to be the best value in the industry right now. Last I checked, they're still in stock for the full size range. I think people just aren't buying them because the Keller is a bit, you know, crazy, and if you're not the most confident rider, it might not be something you want to have people staring at you while you're riding. Get out of here. If you get this bike, it'll bring a lot of chicks your way, you know what I'm saying? At least 5. Probably only these weird chicks though. But yeah, shout out to YT for you know, doing demos in this day and age, which is like, it's weird that it's getting harder and harder to actually be able to test a bike before you buy it. So shout out to them for their service and their patience. I'm gonna have to be patient and wait for my pedals to come in the mail, and also wait for the trails to dry up a bit. I mean, wasn't a big rain. They're gonna be dry like in a couple days, and hopefully we'll get first laps on this thing this coming weekend. Oh, and also if you have questions about the bike, you probably shouldn't. It's a pretty basic bike. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. But again, this is the best value in the industry right now, so long as this thing is $2,500. And I don't see any reason to like avoid it for almost any buyer, being a mixed wheel mid-travel bike. Hey Mimo, what are you doing? I'm trying to do my outro, bubby. Ugh. And of course, if you're in SoCal, you can demo the 29er version just to do like fitment, because it's going to be the same reach and stack sizing anyways. And of course, you can have YT build them up in SoCal and pick it up. So yeah, that's enough talking for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll get this thing on the trail, and Meow will do the outro now.
The Government of Canada has approved the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Expansion Project. The project will effectively triple our capacity to get Canadian energy resources to international markets.
Bitch, I go scored it. Picture me rolling. Bitch, I go scored it.